gentlemen, welcome back to In the Zone. It's a rare Friday live taping. A matter of fact, it's so rare it's never, ever happened before. I got to tell you, Pete, I'm a little nervous today. I never get nervous because I know we can always go back and edit. But today, because we had to go push to Friday, we're live.
Flying blind.
We're live. Pete, I do want to, we're going to jump into Pete's Corner right away because we've got a lot for you. People think the basketball season's kind of coming to, a slow down. Not right now. There's a lot happening, and we've got a lot to share with you today. But in the Zone is a show that's housed in the community of Westfield, in the Westfield community television programming family, as we like to call it. And we lost one last week, Pete. Mr. Arbach, great.
A couple weeks ago,
great guy, good friend of yours.
Yep.
I'm going to give you my first 2 minutes, Pete. Tell us all about him.
He was just a wonderful advocate of the arts from Longmeadow, Massachusetts. His dad was a patron of the arts, well-known dentist in the area. Mark went to Yale Drama School in the arts administration. Did some on-screen, on-stage stuff, but really got into the arts administration, was part of Stage West, part of the Springfield Symphony, part of the Dallas Opera Company, Opera Theater. I mean, down in D.C., his credentials were impeccable. And he also just loved what he did. He did all this for free. He didn't get paid for this over the years. Did Arts Beat for free, was really looking forward to winding down his public relations business and just concentrating on TV and radio. And diabetes and kidney disease just finally claimed him. And it was a shock to us in the fact that we knew that he was, had illnesses but was stable and was just kind of, we were all surprised. So,
well,
yeah,
it was a
tough loss.
Terrible loss. Terrible loss.
Tough
and
loss.
Pete, that's kind of a credit to you that I didn't tell Pete we were going to discuss this on the show, but Pete's just so involved here and in people's lives of the people that are here, and just be able to take off a real good synopsis of Mr. Arbach's life there, just right off the cuff, just a tribute to you as well, Pete. But, I say to people all the time, everybody's going to die.
Yep.
And I think if we could all possibly live life with the same enthusiasm that Mr. Arbach had, I think we're all doing pretty good because we only get a certain amount of time. It's what you do at that time that really, really matters.
Yep. I try to live by his example. He taught me this early on. You don't have what ifs. Just don't have what ifs and just, live your life that way.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. Pete, I also want to just quickly, we had Chris LaPlaca from ESPN on our show, and I just wanted to say their family's going through a little bit of it right now, and I just wanted to say that in the Zone, our thoughts and prayers are with the LaPlaca family as well. Okay, Pete, let's jump to Pete's Corner.
All right. How big an asset to Western Massachusetts is the Basketball Hall of Fame?
Okay, that's a great question. I think it's a tremendous asset. But I think the Basketball Hall of Fame, a little bit, we talk about there's been blowback with the NCAA because of the way they've comported themselves for a long time. I think the Hall of Fame is due for a little bit of that as well, too, the way they comport themselves. I've been very vocal on our show. Anybody that'll listen to me, I truly believe my mentor, Jack Curran, believes in the Hall of Fame. But let's just set Jack aside for a second. Their whole process is shrouded in secrecy. Nobody even knows who's on their committee, and I guess that's by design so they can't be solicited and they can't have all of these different people coming at them, which might personalize things and make things a little different. But I personally believe that Jack Curran belongs in the Hall of Fame, and some of the guys that got in there before him got no business being in a Hall of Fame before you would admit Jack Curran. So I feel a little bit about that. But I think, to be very, very honest with you, they got to do more down there. That is the NBA Hall of Fame. They've got to do a lot more down there. You need to. They did this a little while back. It was very successful, I thought. But start bringing some of the old pros back to Springfield. Let them put on basketball clinics. I watched JoJo White give a clinic one time, the old Celtic. And I've been coaching a really long time, and so there's not a whole lot of drills that you're ever going to push by me that I haven't seen before, we haven't used before. But I picked up some stuff from those old pros that was very valuable and stuff that I still utilize in my practices today. So, I think, it's a great question. Really, really solid question. And I think it's that's one that could get answered a little bit down the future.
Okay. In your college coaching, do you work with players in the off season, or can you work with players in the off season?
Another great one. Division III, we're not allowed to work with players in the off season. We're still under the auspices of what everybody refers to as captain's practices. The Division I schools have gone to small group practices, and if anybody knows anything about Division I, trying to quarantine that group of people into following rules is almost near impossible. So they should really just eliminate the rules, because they're saying small group practices. What happens next? Well, that small group turned into all 13. Then we've got a practice going, and we're running up and down. I mean, you saw some of that going back to when they had some of these gentlemen have heart problems going on in some of these workouts. They weren't in small group workouts. They were going up and down full bore.
Yeah.
So I think there's a whole lot of that going on right now. I always thought the restrictions on the Division III coaches, like, we got big windows in my gym on the second floor. Big, massive windows.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
You can see everything, okay? I'm supposed to walk by that window if my guys are playing basketball and have a blindfold on.
Do that.
Right. So they're asking a lot, of human nature. They always do. I just think right now they've been, these are the little things that they get tied up in that really, really makes people question whether they're valuable anymore. This hard-headed stuff that they do, and then their apt to change is not really strong in terms of what I refer to as individual freedom. The NCAA hasn't really been a purporter of individual freedom for a long time. We talked about Livy Dunn. Livy Dunn should have been able to model. Every single one of those athletes that had other ancillary talents should have been able to, just like everybody else does, should have been able to apply those talents, do well, and move ahead in a capitalist fashion. Personally, that was my thing. They got ripped up one time, Pete. I'll tell you, I never got any of the money of it. Maybe we'll go back another time. But for 1 year, I was what was called a restricted earnings coach. Okay?
What is that?
They had 2 assistants that got paid full money, but then you had a restricted earnings coach who came in, and he was only maximum allowed to be paid like $12,000 or $16,000. That was the job I had for 1 year in Division I. Okay? One of my friends had been in that position for a really, really long time, over 10 years.
Wow.
They came in, somebody sued, and the NCAA lost, of course. And what they had to do, what the institutions had to do, was to go back and pay these guys what normally would have been the rate. So my guy sitting there for 10 years might have caught $80K a year for every year that he was in there because he was so drastically underpaid. That's the NCAA in a nutshell right there.
Yeah.
They're always over the top, always over the brow, and they really have gotten I'd like to know their record. I'd like to know the NCAA's record.
Oh, lawsuit record?
It's 0 and a million. I don't know they've ever won one. Every time, from Ed O'Bannon to any of the people who've ever gone near a courtroom, the NCAA comes out with their tail between their legs. It's unbelievable. Great question, Pete.
All right, final one. Who do you think will be the MVP of the finals?
MVP of the finals right now, I'm going to give it to you. And, Pete, we get to blow our own horn right now.
All right.
Because a while back we told people Tyrese Halliburton is the real deal out of Iowa State. I just love the way this guy plays basketball. And that's what it is for me. It's visceral. It's a feel. I know whether I want the guy on my team in layup line. I've been watching basketball for so long. I can tell by the way a player holds the ball. I can tell by the way a player dribbles the ball. By the way a player approaches his warm-up, I can tell you if I want that guy on my team. Tyrese Halliburton will be the MVP. Again, we're going to talk about it in depth, but he has 3 buzzer beaters right now in 3 different series. And I want to, again, collect all of the people who said that he was the most overrated player in the NBA and take all their questioning ability away from them. All right? This guy's a star. He's an absolute top 10 player in the NBA right now. And if you're going off of this year, he's top 5.
Rich, he's also crossing boundary lines in pop culture because he is an enormous WWE fan, and he's been a integral player in some of their WWE pay-per-views now. I mean, they're selling his shirt. They're selling a WWE is selling a Tyrese Halliburton shirt right now.
And again, people, I sometimes I don't know what it is, but there's bad mouth on people. You know, like the people just down on them. You know, and sometimes I sit here and I say, I get it. I understand why you're down on him. He doesn't play hard. He doesn't play defense. But I can't, for the life of me, understand why people are down on this young man. And if the Thunder, you know, they just got what the Knicks got in Game 1. They got absolutely punched in the nose, blew a big lead. Pacers don't quit, man. They grind. They keep coming, knowing that they're going to hit their spot. And when they hit their spot, man, they're really, really good. What a balanced team. Carlisle coaching his butt off right now. And the look on SGA's face and the look on some of the other players' faces when they left that floor after that game I watched last night, wow. That was devastating. Absolutely devastating. All right, Pete. Since Pete's Corner dragged me in there, let's jump right into it. All right. What happened last night? Holy Halliburton all over again. Man, it was 5 seconds left on the clock. Here's what I loved about it. There wasn't another guy on the Pacers team who was going to take that shot. Not one other guy on that team was looking to take that shot. They knew who the ball went to. They knew what time it was. And what a beautiful little clear out he had to jump into that mid-range jump shot. And again, nothing but net. I mean, the one he hit against the Knicks went straight up in the air for like 45 feet and came right back down through the net. It was unbelievable. I haven't seen too many ball flights like that in my life where the ball hits the rim, goes straight up over 10 feet almost, and came right back down through the rim. It was unbelievable to watch, but he is on an absolute tear right now. Now, I'm going to give the NBA a little bit of a jab here, Pete, all right? So, Adam Silver, let's get ready. What was last night, Pete? What day of the week was last night?
Thursday.
Thursday night. Beautiful night for an NBA game. You know when they get the next game now? Sunday.
Seriously?
No travel. Nowhere to go.
2 days off?
You've got a team sitting in a hotel since they got there, and now they got to go 2 more rest days and sit and then play on Sunday and then travel out and come back.
Wouldn't you want
absolutely terrible.
A Saturday night primetime game?
Why
wouldn't you want a Saturday night primetime game? Sunday night, you're competing against Fox, which has a great Sunday night lineup. Why are you doing that?
I'm mystified. I really, really don't have an answer to it. The only thing that I can think of possibly is they're trying to build it around church culture. You know, everybody on Sunday goes to church. The games used to be in the middle of the afternoon. Now they're playing them at night on Sunday. I think that has a little bit to do with it because everybody's in church all day on Sunday. Then they come home, have dinner, have a big celebration with the family. Everybody sits down and watches the game. So I think the NBA does have that little bit of a familial thing to it, but I'm shaking my head, man. I have no idea what they're doing. I really don't. Pacers absolutely took form in all of their series and took Game 1. And I think the Pacers are smart enough to know, let's get Game 2. Let's do the same thing we did to the Knicks. Let's grab Game 2 and go up 2-0. Right now, if things continue this way, I think it's going to be a long series for the Thunder. They looked the youthful that we all thought they could look at this moment. This is the biggest dance floor. This is the biggest stage. And right now, the other night when they had that lead, boy, they looked like they were standing on top of a ladder. They looked very, very shaky to me. They didn't close, and they allowed Indiana to just push and push and push and finally kick that door open. The mid-range with about 0.3 of a second left on it, it allowed the Thunder to move the ball all the way to half court. But just for our fans' purpose, when you get under the clock of under 0.5 seconds, you can no longer catch and shoot the ball. The ball has to be tipped. And so you can throw it up in the air, and if you catch it, time expires. If you catch it and just tap it towards the basket, throw it up and try and tip it in, it counts. They tried to do that with Holmgren on the baseline, coming off the baseline. I don't really know what kind of play they had drawn up there. It looked very muddled to me. Obviously, that's a really, really difficult situation to have a really good play drawn up in. But again, that's for our fans. That's why they threw the ball up like that. It wasn't like, okay, why didn't they throw it to Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and let him attempt a shot like they did with Halliburton? It wasn't that at all. At that time, and I want to defend Dagnall, they had no choice. They had to throw it up. It had to be a tip. All right, Nembhard from Gonzaga, Pete, on just believable point guard play. This is what I want to tell people, because I've been going through, and I love this on social media, preparing for the draft. But what they're doing now is posting old drafts. Of this is what happened in 2016, 17, 18. This is what happened in 21. And then they're giving grades out. And you're talking about 30 grades. When you have 10 Fs in 30 attempts, that's not good. That's not great. That's why I urge general managers and other people affiliated and associated with picking draft picks, tune into In the Zone, because our marks have been a whole lot better than theirs have. Okay, but Nembhard has been absolutely clutch. Okay, the Thunder, you know, I don't know, but if this guy's overrated, if Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is the MVP, but if Halliburton's overrated, I don't know. 14 points, 10 rebounds, 6 assists, and the game winner. The Pacers, this is what the Pacers do, man. 6 players in double figures. They share the ball. It's a joy to watch. After watching that Knicks series, and then watching the Pacers play the way they play, man, I'd rather be on the Pacers than the Knicks any day. I'm not into that James Harden ball control model in the NBA. I'm just not, because you're only playing on 1-1 time. In the NBA, you have to play on 2-2 time or 3-3 time, as the Pacers are playing on right now. They're extrapolated all the way out to 5-5 and 6-6 time. They got 6 guys capable of going into the finals here and putting up double figures on their team. It's unbelievable. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander was the MVP of the season. He had 38 points, 5 rebounds, 3 assists, and 3 steals. Great game. He was 14 of 30 from the floor. Not bad, but again, I don't know what happened. And again, I will maybe have to read back on this because it was new to me when I saw it. But the Thunder made a lineup change the other night, and I don't know why they did it. And their lineup change was to put Hartenstein on the bench and then started Kason Wallace for some reason, another guard. I guess maybe they thought that gave them a better matchup with the Halliburton and Nembhard backcourt, because either one of those guys is capable of playing the point. I don't know why they did it. I don't know that had a whole lot of impact on the game, but, you know, very, very well it could have. All right, Pete, under our In the Zone segment of Here Today, Gone to Maui, we haven't had one like this in a while. The best New York Knicks season in the last 25 years. They knocked out the world champion Boston Celtics. At that moment, at that very moment, you would have assumed that Coach Thibodeau was good for life.
You got a success story there.
What a great story. What a good elevation of a franchise that, in my mind, the NBA significantly needs to have in that top echelon. You know, in order for the NBA to function, like we talked about before, the Boston Celtics have to go all the way now the way they're built. Brad Stevens, the way he's built that team, they've got to go all the way to turn a profit. But then you look at these other teams like the Chicago Bulls, the Lakers, the Knicks. Those are the teams the NBA really has got to pump up in order to make them good. Now, they've drawn a lot of criticism in the past for possibly doing a few subversive things maybe to make sure that those major market teams were up there. But right now, you can't criticize them when you got Indiana and Oklahoma City in there. You can't say that they fixed that, you know. But they do have, you know, 2 of the really, really young marquee players in this series. But Here Today, Gone to Maui.
But wait, there's New York.
Yeah.
That franchise is just brutal.
I don't understand it at all. Leon Rose, in the way that he sounded in the way that they put out a press release about why they fired Coach Thibodeau, it sounded like he didn't even want to do it. Sounded like in the press conference in the thing, they were talking about how great he was for the Knicks and all this other stuff. Didn't sound to me like, but when you're a Knicks, we get a lot of Knicks fans on here, that back home, and we get a lot of fans from the Knicks. I got to ask, was it Professor Plum with the candlestick in the parlor? What happened? What went on here? And I'm going to tell you a little bit of thing that I want everybody in our area to think about. Thibodeau, whether he was forced to do it, wanted to do it, maybe they had some background together, but he hired Jalen Brunson's dad as an assistant coach. No bueno. I'll tell you right now, no bueno. I don't know what all went down there. But I can tell you, when you start to form cliques like that, undeniable, unbreakable cliques, you've got LeBron and his son. Now you got Jalen Brunson and his dad. Those are family ties, folks. They're going to go first. And so what was happening in that dynamic of the whole locker room, you might have to ask yourself, was this an insurrection? Was the locker room taken from Thibodeau? Because you go to the Eastern Conference Finals, you beat the Boston Celtics, world champions, and get whacked. It don't make any sense to me.
It only makes sense in the sense that I think there's a virus that goes around New York franchises that they all just do incredibly. Like, why are you doing that?
It's back-to-back 50-win seasons. I mean, does everybody remember when the Knicks were moribund? When the Knicks were terrible? I do. And it wasn't for a short period of time. They were awful for a really long period of time. Now they got a team that plays hard, playing some defense, getting after it. There's some things I'd like to see changed about the whole thing. And I think maybe there could have been some off-season movements about that. But again, they seem to have a whole bunch of people. And I'm going to go out to the NBA group right now. You know what? And because all too often, all you hear is that chatter from the locker room. All the players start complaining. When you're an owner and you're a general manager and the players are coming to your office to complain about the coach, you know you got the right guy.
Yep.
You know you have the right guy then. If they're complaining about him, oh, he's too difficult, he's too hard, he's too strict, wants to practice, that's the guy. That's the guy you want. So you stand by your guy. Instead, the Knicks didn't stand by their guy, tossed him out onto 34th and 7th, and it won't be long before Coach Thibodeau finds another job. He's a great coach, but these are people's lives. These are people's careers. And really, really rich guys don't have any position where they can fall into harm's way. And I guess Coach Thibodeau's made enough money, he ain't going to fall into harm's way either. But you've certainly degraded him professionally, and I wonder what reason, what for. I just don't get it. Who's next in line? They're talking about Brunson's name is up there. Never coached really before he got hired in here, but, never been a head coach, but his name's in there, And if they do select him, I would make a really, really nice recommendation that he comes out in his press conference to the OJ's backstabbers. Okay? Smile in your face all the time. They want to take your place. You know it. Michael Malone from the Nuggets, possibility. Family's from New York. Dad was a vaunted New York City coach. Powell Memorial. Could happen. Then they go to Budenholzer, Vogel, guys who've won NBA championships, because this was what they said the knock was on Thibodeau. We want to have a championship environment team. You did.
You got really
The ball
close.
didn't bounce your way a couple of times. You did. You were right there. Okay? Frank Vogel. Jay Wright. That's an interesting name. Jay Wright is an interesting name. And I'm going to throw this one out there. I think some of those college guys might be interested in taking a look at this. I'm going to throw Todd Golden from the University of Florida out there. Brand new national champion. Kind of like Danny Hurley when the Lakers courted Danny Hurley. You're the hot guy now. You're the guy. And if you can, he was originally in New York at Columbia as an assistant coach for a while. Familiar with the Knicks organization, I'm sure. It's the Knicks, man. I know you're the coach of the Florida Gators, just came off a national championship, but this is the Knicks, man. Just like Brad Stevens took his Butler team to the finals, That was the Celtics, man. The Celtics called. You go. You know, I'm just talking from a professional point of view. If somebody offered me the Knick job, believe me, it would be very, very difficult to turn it down. All right, Phoenix Suns, their search is down to 2 candidates, and I got to be honest with you, Pete. They went through a very rigorous interview process, and I can't tell why for the life of me. They wound up with 2 of the most boring names I've ever seen, and the sleeper candidate for this now to emerge is going to have to be Thibodeau. If they're smart, they're going to put their search on hold and give Thibodeau a really, really good, hard look. All right, Johnny Bryant is one of the guys, and Jordan Ott. Anybody ever heard of those names before?
Who?
Not me. Suns assistant coach, and I say throw Thibodeau's name in there. Last season, the NBA had 7 openings, Pete, total on a 30 forum, on a 30-team forum. That's 7. It's a little bit less than 25% if I'm doing the math in my head. Last season they had 7. We're on 5 right now, and I would say no way we don't get to 7. Who's going to be in that zone target area right now? Who could be next in all of the craziness of the NBA? You have to consider that every single NBA coach is on the chopping block every single day. You're one bad pass in the locker room from being on the street. Say the wrong thing to the wrong player, they're going to run to the owner, they're going to run to the general manager, and you're going to be on the street. How can you coach in that environment, Pete?
You can't.
How can you be the authority figure, the leader of that organization, when you're constantly looking over your shoulder that one of your own people is going to stab you in the back? Very, very difficult. Here's a couple of people I want you to keep an eye on. Joe Mazzulla. I said it, Pete. I said it. Keep an eye on Joe Mazzulla and the Celtics, that built-up roster that they have, the payroll, the luxury tax. You might want to blame Brad Stevens for that, but you get new ownership. I would not be surprised if Joe Mazzulla is on the block. Billy Donovan, Billy the Kid, hate to see it. I love Billy D, but right now, Chicago Bulls, they may be looking for a little bit more success. Quinn Snyder of the Hawks, Will Hardy of the Jazz, my goodness, they're awful. They're absolutely awful. Please get somebody in there that can coach the team, because they do have some young pieces there. Lauri Markkanen. You also have Filipowski now. They've got some chances, and they're about ready to get another good look at a draft pick. All right, a whole lot of stuff going on around about the draft right now, Pete. I'm going to give you a little bit more of the finals, and then we're going to jump into a little bit of the draft. Also, I went and I saw something online, and I wanted to vomit when I watched it, so I did my own. They had a top 10 in every position in the NBA. And when I looked through the point guards, they had Tyrese Halliburton as honorable mention.
What?
I took it, folded it up, drop-stepped, and moved towards my garbage pail and dropped it right into there for 2 points. I did my own, and I think I did a whole lot better than they did. But let's talk about the series right now. What are you seeing in this series? What are you going to see? And what might transpire to try and change things around right now? Because losing game 1 is like losing part of your home base. You just gave up territory. You just gave up turf. All right? But what you have, let's talk about the coaches. Coach Dagnall done an unbelievable job. I would say possibly, he's got to be given consideration with SGA taking the MVP. I think you got to consider Coach Dagnall as Coach of the Year. Excuse me. Right next to him is Coach Carlisle, okay, the Pacers. Now, this is a guy who's been around the NBA for a very, very long time. He's a survivor, but he's also formed and really, really come into his own as a head coach. Really got a good feel for what he wants to be, has a good feel for what the league expectations are of a head coach. Because the league expectations of a head coach in the NBA are not the same as the expectations of a college basketball coach. The expectations of the NBA is to somehow manage your locker room with all of those egos, all of that energy going in disparate directions. It happens in a basketball team. Losing is the catalyst for all of that bad stuff to happen. But I've seen it even if anybody watched the Knicks huddle a little bit through the year, even though the Knicks were Eastern Conference, finalists, there was a couple of times they had some blow-ups in that huddle. It's going to happen, especially over 82 games with travel. on the bus, in the hotel, constantly being on top of each other. It's going to happen. There's going to be some explosions. There's going to be some eruptions. That's really what the NBA coach does, is to manage that more than anything. College coaches manage emotions as well, but on a different level. On your lineups, so right there, I mean, Dagnall's had an amazing year. Amazing. But you got to give the edge to Carlisle. Just got that seasoning, and he's just in that spot right now that I recognize as a coach. He's just playing with house money. He knows exactly what he's got to do every time down, up and down. There's no surprises. He doesn't have to think about much going on out there right now. It's just let's go. We're almost like the old 49ers football team where the 49ers used to script the first X amount of plays. Every single play was the same. They scripted it. No matter the time, the down, no matter what, we're following that play. We're going with that play. And you can see the Pacers almost in that mold right now. They're in that play mold right now where Carlisle has them just bang, 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 because you can tell that because what happens is in a game, all right, let's say you come down with a rebound and you're now going on offense. Or the other team scored and now you have to take it out of the basket. Two different types of the start of your possession. If it comes off the rim, you move a lot faster down the floor. If you have to take it out of bounds, it slows you down tremendously. Okay? So now you're doing one of those two things. When the Pacers transition from offense to defense, they're the best team that I've seen in the NBA in years. They are getting their guys to run the floor and stretch the defense, and that's why Halliburton has been as effective as he is, because the other guys are running the floor. That's because Carlisle, and again, this was one of the knocks on Thibodeau, Carlisle trusts in his depth. Carlisle developed his depth, and now he has enough players to run in and out of there and keep them healthy, keep them invigorated, and keep them excited about playing. Okay, if you watch the Knicks team towards the end of the year, and this is it's a criticism, you know, and one of the things you have to measure is, would the Knicks have been that good if they played more guys? Or would the Knicks have been better if they played more guys? Because the other guys that were out there for all those excess minutes, Brunson, Hart, some of those guys were dragging at the end. You could physically see them dragging, mentally and physically. And so I think, you know, the way Carlisle has it going, it's a trust model. He's going to trust his players, and he's going to trust them in the right situation. All right, so your lineups, you have Shai Gilgeous-Alexander going up against Halliburton. Two of the best in the NBA right now. Game one, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander had an amazing, amazing game, but Halliburton doesn't let his team quit, and right there you got to go edge Halliburton. This is going to be ancillary players as well, too. We're going to talk about them. Jalen Williams going up against Andrew Nembhard. That's a great matchup as well. Nembhard is solid. Nembhard delivers the ball. He's like a mailman. He's going to bring you the mail every single day, whether it's raining, snowing, doesn't matter. Nembhard is out of that Mark Few program, and some people don't think that translates to the NBA. Basketball translates everywhere. Nembhard's a basketball player, and he has a great, great basketball IQ. All right, so now you got Lou Dort. Lou Dort, he's too inconsistent for me right now. And one of the things that's happening is Aaron Nesmith from the Pacers has been really, really consistent, especially in the role that he's playing. If you haven't really been familiar with Aaron Nesmith, but you're a Celtics fan, think of the guy Derek White on the Celtics. Great shooter, stretches the floor. When Halliburton gets pressed, there he goes and kicks it to a great shooter out on the perimeter. That's why it works as well as it does. Chet Holmgren, this is another great matchup, but Holmgren got handled last night. It'll be interesting to see what happens in game two, but Pascal Siakam has developed into one of the best big men. I have him down as a power forward. Unbelievable big man and just doing a great job. I think he got the best of Holmgren last night. I had Miles Turner going up against Hartenstein. I thought that was a good matchup. For whatever reason, the Thunder pulled that matchup and went with it. But then the bench comes down to it. You've got two, and we're going to give it to you, Pete. We got two dirty white boys coming off the bench, Pete. They are nasty, tough, physical. Think Peyton Pritchard from the Celtics. You got Alex Caruso. And you got T.J. McConnell, both come off the bench for the Pacers and the Thunder, and they bring big energy coming into the game. Caruso's defense is unbelievable. We've talked about that. T.J. McConnell is just a hard-nosed physical player who really, really understands the game, really, really gets his players into good spots, and if you leave them open, you're dead. Benedict Mathurin could decide this series. Benedict Mathurin, he starts sometimes for the Pacers, comes off the bench. If he plays consistently, that's going to add that in there. Obi Toppin could do the same thing. Obi Toppin could do the same thing. You got Kason Wallace, Jalen Williams also off the bench. I did not understand the Kason Wallace thing. I'm not a big Kason Wallace fan. But now you're down 1-0, and you got some issues. All right, we're approaching the draft. Great time of the year. I love it. We're ready to rock and roll with it. We're ready to go. Most people have the first, 3 or 4 picks pretty much in solid fashion. We'll give them to you right here. Everybody, and I mean everybody, has the Dallas Mavericks selecting the young Cooper Flag player out of Duke. They have it. I don't see anybody. It almost tempts me to want to go the other way a little bit, Pete, to ride that divergent path, because I think there's a lot of questions about Cooper Flag. But then you go Cooper Flag, everybody's solid on the Spurs. I don't get it, taking Dylan Harper out of Rutgers. And then in the 3 and the 4 spot, there's a little bit of flip and flop. Some people have it 3 and 4, some people have it 4 and 3. But VJ Edgecombe, the very mercurial, physical, athletic guard out of Baylor, is right there. And Harper's teammate, Ace Bailey, is right there as well. I get, this is what they call translation. They think that Harper and Bailey are going to translate to the NBA game better than they did to the college game. The open floor will be better for them. The lack of defense will be better for them. And I can agree with that, but I think both of those guys got a long way to go before they're solid pros. And I don't see the Spurs, after drafting Stephen Castle, having the need to draft Dylan Harper when there's some other guys out there I think you could get involved with, especially if you're trying to tag team somebody with Wembanyama. You're trying to put somebody up for Wembanyama. And so is that guy, Dylan Harper? I don't see it, but that's the way everybody seems to be leaning. When we put our draft out, I think you're going to see some surprises there. But here's the thing that happens in general managers' minds as they go into the draft. It's basically a binary. So they have, when you get to the draft, things can happen. You can get blown up. You're about ready to pick. You're picking at 15, and at 14, somebody grabs your pick. And now you have 10 minutes to scramble, talk to your people. Who did we have next? Who is our next best guy? But then it comes into that binary. It comes into that really dual equation where you're sitting there and saying, do we take the best available player? Because I think that's what the Spurs are saying. Dylan Harper is the next best available player. And the fact that him and Castle match up position-wise, we can live with that. We can play them together. We can get away with that. But that's the thing of, okay, you just got blown up. Take the best player available, because you might be able to trade him. You might be able to get something of value for him. Or you might be able to trade the other guy who's in that position once you see them work out against each other and know, okay, the guy we drafted is much better than the guy we have right now. Let's trade the guy we have right now. Or the guy we drafted is nowhere near as good as the guy we have right now. Let's trade the guy we just drafted. Okay? But that's the other side of the binary, is best fit. Okay, what's the best fit? And that's where I'm really talking about with the Spurs. What's the best fit for the Spurs coming into this draft? I don't see them approaching this with best fit. And to be honest with you, after Cooper Flag, there really isn't a real great consensus, although there is that mock draft consensus out there. In my brain, there's no consensus about Dylan Harper at number 2. I have no consensus there in my brain. I don't even have consensus on Cooper Flag at number 1. But that's your binary equation that most of the general managers are into right now. Can we get a great player, or do we get fit? And I think, it really comes up, and it's so situational. What happened right 10 minutes before you got blown up? And then what's available to you next? And sometimes it would be a really good segment of a show, maybe when we get a little downtime, is to go into it and see who got blown up and who was glad and should have been glad they got blown up, because they got blown up and then they wound up with something else. All right, I'll give you a quick example. When Michael Jordan was coming out, I want to say it was 84 was his draft. I'm not 100% sure on that, but they had Hakeem Olajuwon go first in that draft. No harm, no foul. But then the Portland Trailblazers were next. And according to just about all the reports that I've heard, Bobby Knight was heavily involved in trying to tell the Trailblazers to take Michael Jordan. Bobby Knight saw that this guy's going to be one of the great players in the game, and he went after them to take it. But now the Chicago Bulls are the ones who got blown up because maybe they were looking at Sam Bowie. Maybe they were looking at the big 7'2" center out of Kentucky who looked like a can't-miss guy. But then when they took him at number 2, the Trailblazers, Chicago gets blown up. They wind up taking Michael Jordan, and that's not exactly getting blown up. That's like getting popped up and propped up. But it's unbelievable. Right. You know, what you have is the players in the draft, they all come in sizes and shapes. But I will say this to you. Generally, the best players in the NBA historically and most recently are between 6'3" and 6'8". The best players in the NBA are generally between 6'3" and 6'8". Kobe Bryant, Michael Jordan, LeBron James. Those are 3 of the best right there. Now, you can go in and get me Shaquille O'Neal and get me some of those other big guys, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Wilt Chamberlain. But as you see, some of those names that are coming up are names that were more in the past when the center position was viable in the NBA. Now it's not viable anymore. But now you have situations where those real, Scottie Pippen came in out of nowhere in the draft. And that type of player does very, very well in the NBA because they have the physical attributes. And then again, they'll have some of the basketball attributes as well. But a significant amount of F grades in every single one of these drafts that I'm seeing. I saw one the other day that had 10 Fs in it. Wow. Now, that's not even including the Ds. Which if you got a D, you would consider that to be not a great grade either. I mean, an F is an F. I mean, that's bad. But, count up all the Ds, count up all the Cs, and you're looking at maybe like 10 good picks in the whole draft that turned out well. You got to do your homework, fellas. You got to dig in. But you also have to give more credence to what they actually did in the proving ground that was in front of them. What did they do in college? It's one of the reasons I was so high on Dwayne Wade as a draft pick. He took his team to the Final Four, a team that wasn't very good. And he was clearly the most dynamic player on the floor and wound up having a great year as well. Again, in that 6'4", 6'8" mold, 6'3", 6'8" mold, most of the players, if you go back, you'll see it. And again, in the draft, I say this all the time, there's transition. Some guys transition very well to the NBA, and other guys don't. Sam Bowie didn't transition great to the NBA. He was the second-round pick. Also broke his foot a number of times, so that had a lot to do with it, the injuries as well. But let's look at Christian Laettner, one of the greatest. If you ask Mike Krzyzewski who's the top 3 players at Duke of all time, he's going to throw Christian Laettner's name in there. Yeah. Christian Laettner wasn't a great pro. Chris Washburn dominated college basketball, didn't translate. Pearl Washington dominated college basketball, didn't translate. DJ Burns, the big guy, remember him from NC State with the big meat hook, didn't make an NBA team. Jimmer Fredette of BYU led the nation in scoring, hasn't been in the NBA in a long time. All right, Pete, we're going to go positional now. All right, here's mine. And I didn't even want to read you theirs because, I just don't know what this whole thing is with Halliburton. I don't know. Number 1, this is RSS coming right at you. These are mine. All right. Usually we'll notate, we'll footnote if we have somebody that we're taking from. These are mine. Okay. Point guard position in the NBA. Who's the best right now, Pete? Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. MVP. He's just unbelievable when you watch him. He can score when he gets hit. He's very hard to contain. I'm going to give it to the NBA guys one more time. I think Carlisle caught a little bit of this, but again, I saw this kid downhill way too many times. You got to stop him from getting downhill on that pick and roll. If he gets around that corner, you're dead. Okay? Don't let him turn that corner. I think you'll see a better result. It's not perfect, but once he gets around that corner, he's 80% into your bag once he turns that corner. 80% into your bag. He's so comfortable with his decision makings coming off that high pick and roll. Tyrese Halliburton, I'm giving him the number 2 spot. Now, some people might say Nembhard's the point guard, Halliburton's the point guard. The guy who has the ball in his hands at the end of the game, that's the point guard. I went Jalen Brunson at 3. I don't know. I probably wouldn't take him if I had a lot of these other guys to choose from. But right now, he's big shot Brunson. He's bad shot Brunson. But, I mean, he led that team, led him into the finals. You got to give him his credence. I don't really enjoy the way that he plays the game of basketball. I think it has a little bit of a solo approach to it, a James Harden approach. I don't think that's a winning basketball formula. But you got to give him his credit, too. He's tough. He's probably under 6 foot, 5'11". And if you counted, this would be an interesting stat some of those computer geek guys could get on. If you counted the NBA player that hit the floor the most times this year, getting knocked to the floor, I guarantee you it's Brunson. All right, Cade Cunningham, love him. He's the reason the Detroit Pistons have gotten resurrected and gone up. And again, putting this guy in the 5-hole, it was difficult for me, but I'm basing this right now. This is right now. Steph Curry, 5. Kyrie, our guy, Pete. Kyrie, he's a great player. He's mercurial. I mean, there's good side and bad side. You wish he would kind of bring that under control, but he's just a great player, no question about it. He'll be considered one of the greatest point guards of all time. Kyrie Irving to Dame Lillard. Another guy I think has too much control of the basketball, especially when you're playing with a great player like Giannis Antetokounmpo. But Dame Lillard can score, man. Dame Lillard can put the ball in the basket, and he's legit. I just think basketball teams run better when your lead guard isn't your leading scorer. Because what that means in translation is none of your other guys are getting the ball. None of your other guys are feeling involved. None of your other guys are drawing that rhythm. And that's important in basketball. Rhythm is so important in basketball. And also, I believe high tide, low tide theory. When you got a high tide, ride that guy.
Yeah.
Jalen Brunson ain't high tide every night. There had to be other guys who were ready to contribute, ready to have that big night. And they smothered them with a pillow. They absolutely smothered the rest of that team with a pillow. John Morant, in the 8 spot. You wouldn't see him in the 8 spot normally, but man, the last 2 years ain't been good for Ja. Trae Young, and I'm going to go to LaMelo Ball. LaMelo Ball, solid point guard, very, very great ball handler. And Trae Young led the league in assists this year. He's a 1-1 player. Not my favorite thing. That's why I put him down there as low. 2 guards. All right, Anthony Edwards, hands down to me, the best 2 guard in the league right now. Didn't have a great playoff, but he had a very good regular season, was able to put the Timberwolves on his back. And Pete and I do a thing called a Power 15. Every week, the NBA, we go through a Power 15. And me and Pete look at it like it's the stock market. Who's rising? Who's dropping? Who's moving? Who's middling? And we had some really, really good action this year. And I would say the Timberwolves probably had that nice little ascent, to where they really, really wound up in the finals. They started playing good basketball. You're seeing it with the Pacers. Basketball is different at the end of the year because there's injuries. There's all these things that happen. There's people who hold their locker room together, and there's people who lose their locker room.
Yep.
Right now, you're watching the Pacers having been invited to Pascal Siakam's house early before the season started. They brought the entire Pacer team to his house. What did they do there? They set the foundation for what they're doing right now. Unbelievable. Donovan Mitchell, my number 2 guy. Cavaliers. Again, bad playoff performance, but these guys, it's their first time through. And sometimes a first time through in the playoffs where the defense stiffens a little bit, teams are really playing at a higher level, it's a different walkthrough. And if you've been taking some of that soft treatment that you got all season long, now all of a sudden it tightens up in the playoffs and it's a little bit of a different look. I think Edwards and Mitchell both caught a little bit of that, but knowing those 2 guys like I do, they're working right now. They're in the lab right now. Anthony Edwards might be the hardest working player in all of the NBA. Jaylen Brown in the 3 spot. Got him nice in there. They're talking a lot about him moving, Pete, but I don't know how you move that $50 million albatross that's hanging around his neck. James Harden, number 4. Tyler Herro, what a year this man had. Tyler Herro for the Heat, I mean, he was a beneficiary of Jimmy Butler getting sent to the Warriors because they really had to rely on Herro, but he's an elite shooter, maybe the best shooter in the NBA right now, and he's been able to get his shot off, and he fits right into what Spoelstra wants to do. There was some talk that we bring up Spoelstra right now, Pete. There was some talk about him possibly going to the Knicks. And I would be surprised at that because as long as he has Pat Riley, they're going to keep practicing heat culture. And I think Spoelstra figured out that he's a really good coach in heat culture. But when you get outside that culture, that's when you're really going to get tested as a coach. And I think he's happy where he is. Devin Booker down in the 5 spot, 6 spot. I thought he'd be higher, but he's stepped off, man. There's only way to describe it. He stepped off. Devin Booker, Jamal Murray, a lot of those Kentucky guys. Shea Gilgeous-Alexander's Kentucky guy, but some of those other guys have stepped off. Norman Powell and Jalen Green, 2 really, really great young players on the rise in the NBA. Jalen Williams, I love. And I'm going with Paolo Banchero. He could be a point guard. He could be a 2 guard, but, man, he did great stuff this year as well. Jason Tatum in the small forward spot. Who's better than him, Pete? Who's better than JT? I don't see it. I love Jason Tatum. Big fan. LeBron James in the 2 spot. How about putting Jason Tatum over LeBron James, Pete? It's no question.
Yeah.
Not right now.
LeBron's days.
He's on the downslide of that slope, man. He's on the downside of that slope for sure. Luka, got to be in there. Again, small forward, big forward. He plays so many places. It's like Joker. You could put Joker at point guard, 2 guard, 3, 4, 5. You could put him anywhere. All right. You got Scotty Barnes. Love this guy. He's the guy I tell you about Halliburton. I'm going to tell you right now. Take Scotty Barnes out of the confinement and the penitentiary of Toronto that he's in right now, put him in a major market arena, and you're going to see one of the great, great young stars emerge. I watched him at Florida State. I was happy to see him taken in the top 3 because I thought he was that type of player. But he's toiling in Toronto. It's Toronto. Get him out. Get him out of there. Get Zion out of New Orleans. If the NBA, go ahead. Go the way you're supposed to go. You're a business. Go that way. Franz Wagner from Orlando Magic. Unbelievable career this guy's having. He is nasty. DeMar DeRozan and Jimmy Butler, 2 guys that like to shoot the ball during the national anthem, but they're both effective. They'll shoot the ball every single time they touch it, but they're effective. I like Zach LaVine, doing great stuff. Great shooter, high volume. I got Brandon Miller in here, and I got Brandon Ingram. Miller really been one of the surprises of that draft, really, really, a couple of years back. Power forward, this wasn't a hard one, Pete. Giannis, that was an easy one. Evan Mobley, number 2. I think after watching this playoff, though, I might have slipped Pascal Siakam. I might put Siakam in 2, Evan Mobley in 3, but they both had great years.
Yeah.
Kevin Durant, imagine having him in the 4 spot, Pete. I don't know. Chet Holmgren, I've really, really watched him grow. I think the redshirt year for him was a great idea, but right now he's going to have to step it up in these finals because last night he didn't look great. Zion, I got him way down here because he doesn't play enough. He's hurt all the time. He doesn't train, but this guy is 1 summer away from becoming an elite NBA basketball player. Got to dedicate. You got to go get it. But, man, what physical attributes this young man has. And, again, I'm a little surprised to see it because he's about ready to eat himself right out of the NBA.
I resemble that remark.
Victor Wembanyama. We both do, Pete. Victor Wembanyama, I don't know what's going on with him. Pulmonary embolism, serious, folks. I don't know what's going on there. OG Anunoby from the Knicks, what a great series he had. That's where I talk about Brunson on one time. I wanted to see more Anunoby. He had a great series. And I got Julius Randle down here in the 10th spot. I don't know, Pete. We call him Randle, but he had a really good series offensively. Doesn't play a lick of defense, but neither does Jalen Brunson. Neither does Karl Anthony Towns. It was almost in that trade. They said, we'll give you 3 guys that don't play defense, and you take our 3 guys that don't play defense, and you'll see if you could get them in a stance. Center position. Nikola Jokic, no question, the big guy, robbed of the MVP award, robbed of the MVP award for a second time. I'm going to lay it out for you, folks. This gentleman belongs to be a 5-time in a row NBA MVP. Kendrick Perkins flapping his gums. All these other guys got out there and gave it to Joel Embiid, who they can't seem to find right now. And also Shea Gilgeous-Alexander. I get it. They're trying to spread it out a little bit, but it was larcenous. It was a theft, if you ask me. Anthony Davis in the 3 spot. What a talent. What a talent. I keep watching him going, yep, he's going to happen. Yep, it's going to happen. And it just, when was the last time he had a great year? A great year where you're saying, man, he dominated. He had the ability to dominate, and he did. I don't get it. Karl Anthony Towns in the 4 spot did a lot of good for the Knicks this year. I thought he made some sacrifices by giving up his three-point ball a little bit, getting inside, being a force. But, man, when I tell you this cat don't play no D, I mean, it was embarrassing. And more embarrassing than that was the defense that Jalen Brunson played. Unbelievable. Bam Adebayo, stuck in Miami. He's the only big guy they got down there, but he was the guy saying, I'm the defensive player of the year. I'm not sure how that turned out. Rudy Gobert had some really, really good moments this year. Joel Embiid, he's 8th. I don't know why I even put him on the list, Pete. I'm not sure. He's talented, no question. When he's going, he can, but man, I wouldn't want that guy anywhere near my franchise. This guy's going to be one of the most talked about free agents of the offseason, Miles Turner. Hopefully the Indiana Pacers can lock him up. And I like Walker Kessler. I like Walker Kessler in there. Gentleman who left North Carolina, went on, and he's doing some good stuff. Always in the top in block shots. You know, he's not an offensive threat. He's in that center position binary where he's going to block shots, play defense, rebound, and set high ball screens. Okay, Pete, we got a lot of GOAT consideration here. I wanted to read you something down here that was interesting that I saw online. We got LeBron versus John Stockton. John Stockton, maybe I would go Isaiah Thomas maybe as the number 1 point guard if I had to pick somebody on my team. But John Stockton overall of all time might be considered the greatest point guard of all time. I think you'd have to give him credence, all right? Now, this is where I really got a little bit lost here, but in the amount of games, LeBron James, 1,413 games. Stockton's played more games, 1,504 games. I was shocked by that. Okay? Games missed, though, this is where you find some of it. Games missed by LeBron James. Pete, if it was 14, 13, right? 10% of that's 140.
Yep.
All right? He's missed 190 games over the course of his career. That's over 10%. You're approaching 15%.
Has he had any major injuries? I don't recall any major injuries for LeBron.
Nope, not with according to what those guys are saying about him. You know, he's got some of that magic juice maybe. Games missed, 22 for Stockton. 22 missed games his entire career. Playoffs, 15 times for LeBron, 19 times for John Stockton. Never spent a year in the NBA where he didn't make the playoffs. The times that they missed the playoffs, LeBron has missed the playoffs 4 times, and Stockton never missed. All 82 games, this is telling. LeBron played all 82 games 1 time in his career. 16 times for Mr. Stockton. How many times were they swept in the playoffs? LeBron, twice swept. Stockton, only once. Total points, LeBron is first. Stockton is 55th. Total assists, LeBron is 10th. Stockton is first. Steals, LeBron is 4th. And Stockton is first. Just a little bit of information.
That changing the league over time, too.
No doubt. No doubt. Here's some playoff prowess for you if you're in consideration of the GOAT. Here's 4 names that always come up in the GOAT conversation. Michael Jordan's record in the finals, Pete, 6-0. Never lost an NBA final. In 35 playoff games, he was 24-11 for a percentage of .685. That's unbelievable. Kobe, 5-2 in finals, 37 total playoff games, 23-14 total for a .622 percentage. Also, very, very strong. Steph Curry, 4-2 in the finals, 34 total games, 21-13 and a .618 percentage. Unbelievable. LeBron, 4-6 in the finals, 55 playoff games. He's 22-33. So losing record in playoffs for 400%. Unbelievable. All right, Pete, I don't think we got time to go through my NBA draft stuff. How much time do we have?
About 2 minutes.
2. We definitely don't have time. Okay, I did want to share a couple of things with you from the NCAA side. That's going to heat up with our draft. BYU has rewarded Kevin Young after one season. Coached last year, but they signed A.J. DeBonsa, the number 1 player in the country this year. Young came from the Phoenix Suns organization. They've given him a new extended contract. And Pete, going back to Thibodeau, Thibodeau's cashing checks all the way home. They gave him a 3-year extension. Guess when?
Last year.
In the middle of this year. Rick Pitino has publicly stated that he has zero interest in the Knicks job. Those of us that speak fluent Pitinoese knows he's interested. And knowing Pitino, like I know Pitino, is he'll take the Knicks and he'll try and send his son Richard over to St. John's.
I smell a palace coup in the Knicks locker room.
There's something going on there. Hey, I'm going to leave you here with Dickie V's dazzling dozen for next year. Dickie V likes Purdue. What's not to like? Braden Smith, best point guard in the country, possibly. Number 2, Houston. Number 3, Florida. Number 4, the Huskies are going to be happy. UConn. Number 5, St. John's. I love St. John's next year. Texas Tech, love them as well. 7, BYU. Wow, they're going to have a hell of a team. Arkansas in the 8th spot. I don't see it. But then you go Duke, UCLA, Kentucky, and Michigan. Pete, our first live show, I think I was a little bit more on point today because we were live. I think I had to bring it. Had to get my game ready. Had to lift it up. Again, all the extended condolences out to the Orbach and LaPlaca family. We love you. All of our In the Zone people, stay well, stay healthy, and love each other. Be kind to each other because that's the best thing we can do. We have unlimited supplies of that in a place sometimes where things get short. Pete, we'll see you next week. We're getting ready for the draft. Let's go.